Hello, my name is Pastor Keion Henderson, and I give leadership to the LightHouse Church of Houston, Texas. And welcome again to Keion's Korner. You know, I always say it, everybody needs somebody in their corner, and I'd like to be in yours. Today, we will be discussing the object of the pressure of being gifted. You know, it's important to me that all of our viewers and all of our members grasp a clear understanding of my teaching. So I've compacted a few questions from a few members, and here they are. Question number one. We as Christians often say favor isn't fair. What does that mean? I think that's a brilliant question. There's a young man named Joseph in the book of Genesis. He was thrown in a pit. Taken out of that pit, put in a man's house named Potiphar. Potiphar's wife accuses him of rape. He is then thrown in jail. When he gets to jail, he is put in charge of the prison. And from prison, he goes to the palace where he becomes the prime minister of Egypt. That's what we call favor. The Bible says that everywhere Joseph went, he found favor. That means that in the pit, favor put him in a position to be sold to the Midianites, who would actually give him to Potiphar, who was actually one of the subservient people in the government, who put him over the affairs of his house. Look at all of these things working together for his good. So if I could define it for you, I tell you, favor is when God breaks the rules just to bless you. Here's the second question. How do we recognize the gifts that are inside of us? First of all, knowing that there is a gift in you is an excellent place to be, because there are so many people in the world who believe that everybody is gifted besides them. And I want you to know, whoever you are, that there is a gift inside of you. So what do you do now that you know that there is a gift in you? Paul says through the writer Timothy, stir up the gift. In other words, you've got to find the substance of what's on the inside of you, and you've got to stir it up. How do you stir it up? Well, let me tell you, I used to drink Kool-Aid. I don't drink it anymore. It's not as healthy as it used to be. But all of the sugar would settle at the bottom. And my mother would give us a spoon, and we would have to stir that thing up so that the contents could coagulate with one another. You're going to have to get an agitator in your life, somebody who won't let you settle, somebody who won't let it all fall to the bottom, somebody who will shake you out of your stupor and say, you know what, there is more inside of you than what you are producing. So how do you get that thing out of you? Find somebody who recognizes it and let them snatch it out. Question number three. Pastor Keion, you stated God would break protocol to choose the unqualified. How do I answer the call without being fearful because of my history? You know, without scriptural evidence, I tell you that you are doomed for disaster. But we've got too many examples that God takes messes and produces messages. There was a young man named Paul whose name used to be Saul. Did you not know that God found him on the road to Damascus while he was on his way to murder Christians? What about Peter? You know, the one that cut a man's ear off and performed a felony right in the presence of Jesus. Look what Jesus does. Picks him to preach Pentecost. Perhaps David, who was known to be an idolater, but God called him a man after his own heart. And if you don't like Peter, and you don't like Paul, and you don't like David, let me introduce you to Keion, somebody that God met in Gary, Indiana, got saved, baptized, and filled with the Holy Spirit. And now I am sitting here talking to you about what God can do with anybody. And if God could do it for me, he can do it for you. I recently taught a message entitled, The Pressure of Being Gifted. You know, there are some messages that God gives you that you kind of take credit for. There are others that you know that flesh and blood did not reveal it to you. Let me share this synopsis to encourage you to recognize the gifts that are inside of you. One of the best quotes I've ever heard in the world goes like this: you were born looking like your parents, but you will die looking like your decisions. If you've ever heard me preach anywhere, chances are you've heard me say that before. But you know, one thing I've been taught is that anything that's not worth saying twice wasn't worth saying once. So let me say it again. You were born looking like your parents, and you will die looking like your decisions. I'm 6 feet 4 inches. You look at my mom and you'll say, what happened? I introduce you to my uncles and you know why. You see, because this concoction called Keion is nothing more than the amalgam of the chromosomal pool of my mother and my father. They came together to make the essence of me. The same thing is true of you. And there are some things about you that if we search your genealogy, we will find out exactly where you came from. But the irony of life is when you die, you will not look like the people who brought you into this world. You will look like the decisions you made. If you drink, if you smoke, if you stay up all night, if you don't eat right, if you keep late hours, see, that's decision, and you will look like your decision. So the reason why I use the quote is to say, if you don't like how you came, make some different decisions, and you get to influence how you leave.
God is looking for crazy, deranged, mixed up, confused people so that he can put his hand on you. And can I step down here like Pastor Steve does? The reason why he wants to put his hand on you is he doesn't want anybody else to touch you so that when you finally become great, nobody else has fingerprints on you. So when God does the forensics of your life, nobody will be able to say, if it wasn't for me, she wouldn't have been there. If it wasn't for me, he wouldn't be there. God, he will leave you all alone so you'll have one testimony. If it had not been for God in my life, I would not be where I am. Give your neighbor a high five and say, I'm not perfect, but I am gifted. Sometimes I have bad thoughts, but I am gifted. Sometimes I say the wrong things, but I am gifted. Sometimes I don't come to church every Sunday, but I'm gifted. Somebody give God praise in this place. See, in fact, the earlier you find out your gift, the more difficult it is. People, you know, if you go to school and you go to college and everybody's trying to help you find your purpose. But see, the problem with finding your purpose early is you never get to make mistakes. Wow. That's a word. It is. She said, that's a word right there. It absolutely is. You find out your purpose early, and see, I was preaching at 14. So, you know, having this much swag at 14, that's not... You understand what I'm saying, don't you? I mean, I was this cool when I was born. Well, I was born, I gave my mom a high five. I was cool when I got here. I was preaching at 14 years old, so here I am in high school, 14 years old, the most swagged out kid in school. I don't understand why you all are laughing. This is like a true story. Like, had so much swag. I was a basketball player, starting shooting guard, but I'm a preacher. So when you have this much swag, ladies like you. I can't help that. That's not my fault. I mean, I'm 6'4". I'm about right now. I'm about 210 pounds, but then I was about 100, soaking wet with rocks in my pocket, with weighted shoes on. And so here I am, a basketball player and a preacher, so every time I try to talk to a girl, this is what she say, ain't you a preacher? Oh. Now she's going to expect me to be holy, and I'm not. The earlier you find out your gift, the more difficult it is. See, that's why you got to thank God for your journey. That's why you got to thank God that sometimes you're up and sometimes you're down and sometimes you're in and sometimes you're out. Sometimes you know where you're going and sometimes you're confused, because all things work together for the good of them that love the Lord and are the called according to his purpose. Somebody say, God send it all to me. God send it all to me. Every valley has a purpose. Every mountain has a purpose. Every struggle has a purpose. Every pain has a purpose. Every friend has a purpose, and every hater has a purpose. And God is going to use everything in your life to get you where he wants you to be. And I know I'm talking to several of you today because I can look in your face and tell you were marked since you were born. You were born to be great, and everything in your life has tried to impede that progress. You were born to be phenomenal, and you continue to meet. Have you ever met people and gave them good news and say, this is what God is getting ready to do for me, and they try to beat you to it? Well, let me tell you what God is doing. This is not your moment. I'm trying to tell you what God is doing in my life, and you're trying to one-up me by telling me. If you want to start a good moment about God, initiate your conversation tomorrow. Today is my good moment. But see, the problem with being gifted is that gifted people often choose people to befriend who are not gifted because you think it's your job to save everybody, and you feel sorry for people, and you end up spending your gifted life with people who have no gift. And now you are exhausted because you're trying to lift everybody up and you're trying to encourage everybody and you're trying to get everybody to the Lord and you're trying to get everybody encouraged. And now, after you've encouraged them, what do you have left for yourself? Because the fallacy of the gifted is we're always giving our gift away. And if I could label this sermon and call it anything, I would call it the pressure of being gifted. That you walk around all day despondent and confused because how many of you know what it feels like to give everything you have to somebody and they don't give it back to you in return? It's like Paul when he went down to fix that fire and the Bible says that his hand was bitten by a snake. Have you ever been bitten trying to help somebody? He goes down there and he bites it. But let me tell you, the venom does not enter into his veins because let me tell you, God has a protection over people who have enough heart and enough sincerity to be there for people who don't deserve it and to be there for people who don't need it. Paul survives the snake bite. And I tell you that anything that bites you because you are anointed and gifted, you are a survivor. Give everybody a high five you can reach and say, I'm a survivor. Gifted people make mistakes. Thomas Edison, he tried 10,000 times to get the light bulb correct. 10,000 times. 10,000 times. It takes a while. Everybody say it takes a while. You know, when I first moved to Houston, I'm from Gary, Indiana. I'm from a small town. I'm from Gary. Anybody else from Gary? Oh, you've been there. Oh, Indiana. What part of Indiana? Indianapolis. It's about 2 hours away from where I'm born and raised. And I grew up in Gary, Indiana. Now, the unemployment rate in Gary, Indiana was 40% when I was growing up. The average age on the street, Ellsworth Place, where I grew up, the average age of a young African-American man was 21. That means I should have been dead 14 years ago. My first friend was killed when I was in the 6th grade, shot in the head right on the street that I grew up on. I saw drugs growing up. I saw all kinds of things growing up, and I don't know how I made it out. I was born to a mother who had 4 children and raised us in a 600 square foot bedroom, 600 square foot apartment, 2 bedrooms. My sisters, all 4 of us, I should say, 3 sisters and myself shared 1 bedroom. We had 1 bed on the floor, another bunk bed here, and then another bed nailed to the top of the wall. And my oldest sister slept in there. It was about 6 inches between her and the ceiling, so she had to roll out of bed because she couldn't sit up. And we had 1 dresser drawer in the corner, and since it was 3 dressers and it was all girls, my oldest sister had the top one, my middle sister had the middle one, my younger sister had the other one, and my clothes, the ones that I had, were on the floor. And my sister and I, since we're so close in age, I'm Keion, she's Kiana, and I'm 36 and she's 34, we shared the same clothes. We shared the same bath water. She took a bath in the water, and then I would come in. And yes, we did share the same clothes, but I did not dress like a girl. So get that out of your mind right now. She dressed like a boy. I saw you thinking it. I had to get you together right here in the name of Jesus. Matter of fact, let me give you a T-shirt for thinking like that. And all of that, all of what God has done in our life right now, and all of the members that we have, and the businesses that my wife and I own, and everything that we've been able to accomplish, and the 30 acres that we have, and this company that we started, and all of that, and all of our children, all of that was in that 600 square foot bedroom apartment. All of that, because let me tell you something, it does not matter how you start. The only thing matters is how you finish. And I prophesy and speak to somebody in this place today that you are no longer going to judge what God is getting ready to do in your life because of where you are right now. God is getting ready to do a new thing in your life and get ready to take you to the next level. As a matter of fact, I want you to look down your row and just tell everybody you can see, get ready, get ready, get ready. Tell them, get ready. Because when I get here next Sunday, I'm not even going to be the same person I am today. You better get ready. And listen, let me tell you something. Never water yourself down because people cannot handle you at 100 proof. You be who you are. You say what you want to say. You become what you want to become. And I'll tell you today, eyes have not seen and ears have not heard and it's not even yet appeared what God is going to do with your life. But never forget this. You are born looking like your daddy, but you will die looking like your decisions. And if you could just make some different decisions, You will look like what you chose. Somebody shout, I'm about to make different choices. I'm about to stop speaking negative to myself. I'm going to stop letting negative people speak to me. As a matter of fact, the next time somebody negative comes up to you, tell them these words: leave me alone. I don't have energy or space in my head for you to tell me what I'm not going to do. I already know what I can't do. I'm trying to figure out what I can do, and I need to get around people who can see in me what I cannot see in myself. It's difficult being gifted. The difficulties of being gifted, it is so hard. It is so hard. It is not easy. Everybody wants a gift, but here's the problem with a gift. You have to learn how to open it. I remember one time Pastor Steve bought me a gift, and he got me a gift, and you know, Pastor Steve is a Class A guy. He's phenomenal. See, if I had purchased you a gift, you ripped the paper off. Pastor Steve bought me a gift. The paper was so good I couldn't rip it. I wasn't used to that. Nobody had ever got me a gift like that, and I went to rip the paper, and it wouldn't rip, and then I said, okay, well, let me just slide it off. Because nice gifts have to be opened carefully. Stop surrounding yourself with people who handle you any kind of way, or just trying to rip into you and trying to find what's inside of you. Touch somebody and say, just handle me with care. Just handle me with care. Because I've got a gift inside of me, and it just can't be handled by anybody any kind of way. You know, the Bible says that the rejected stone eventually became the chief cornerstone. You see, to every person in here that has been rejected, the only reason why they rejected you is because they didn't know where you fit. But let me tell you something. How many of you all have ever driven past a nice car dealership and said, one day I want one of those? You didn't get it, but you even went up there and you stopped and you sat in it, acting like you could afford it. Am I the only one? I have gone to the dealership and sat in it, and acted like I could afford it, and the people will come over and say, may I help you? I say, no, I'm not ready. You know, that's how you treat them when you can't afford it, but you just act, be gone and leave me. Just leave me, I'm not ready. So I would go and sit down on the car, and I would look at it, and I knew I couldn't afford it, but they didn't know. Because you have to act like you can. Come on. You got to act like you can. And so I would sit in there and with the hopes and the dreams that one day I will be able to own what it is that I saw, but I understood that there was a time. And so I had to leave. And I didn't get the car. I had to go. I wanted it. I rejected the car. Watch this. People every day reject things they cannot afford. When they rejected you, it didn't mean that you were valueless. It meant that they recognized they could not afford you. So they left you, and you misinterpreted their exit as an admission that you were worthless. But it was actually an admission on their part that you were priceless. You got to change the way you see yourself, because if you don't change the way you see yourself, you have to teach people how to treat you. But see, when you're gifted, God breaks protocol. When you're gifted, God changes the order. Let me give you the definition of favor: when God breaks the rules to bless you. That's what favor is. Favor is when God upsets the protocol and does for you what he doesn't do for anybody else. And you can't explain it. All you can do is say, I'm gifted. I woke up like this. I was born to be great. I can't help it. I didn't ask for it. I didn't petition for it. I didn't politic for it. I just woke up great. And the devil is trying to make sure you never realize it, but you are, in spite of what it feels like. And I know it's difficult, but watch this. Jacob is the promised son. Well, if you go back and read a story prior, you start to see that this guy is going through in his house what his father went through in his house. Because his father was also married to a barren woman. Her name was Sarah. And she prayed with her husband for a baby, and they didn't have one until they were almost 100 years old. But Abraham doesn't do what Isaac does. When Abraham wants a child, he goes and sleeps with the handmaid, Hagar, and has a baby and names him Ishmael. Ishmael, Ishmael. If you go to the Middle East right now, all of the wars that are going on over there in the Gaza Strip and all of the upheaval that's happening between Ishmael and Isaac today. That's why some Muslims are against other Muslims, and that's why some people are against other people, because both of them believe that they are going to be the progenitor of the promise. And so they're fighting for a position. The fight started in Rebecca, and now it is taking place in the world. And they are fighting and they're jostling, and now our country has to figure out whose side we're on and where does the capital city belong, and is Jerusalem supposed to be here or is it supposed to be there? All because Abraham couldn't wait. And let me tell you, whenever you become impatient, your impatience will give birth to the thing that will fight your promise. Ishmael is fighting Isaac. Isaac is the promise, but his impatience caused his promise a problem. I know you want it right now, but don't get in front of God. I know you want to succeed right now, but don't get ahead of God, because whenever you get ahead of God, you give birth to the thing that's going to fight your promise. She's got a fight inside of her. Her two sons are inside of her, and she's feeling insecure, but she's not the only woman who's ever been barren. You do know Samuel's mother was barren. Joseph's mother was barren. Samson's mother was, John the Baptist, his mother was barren. And all of the boys that they had became great men. Because let me tell you, for every person in here who feels barren, the longer the wait, the bigger the gift. The longer the wait, the bigger the gift. Isaac prayed, said, God, I want you to bless my wife. I want you to bless my wife and want her to have a baby. God says, all right, I'll do it, but there's going to be a dilemma. There's going to be a dilemma. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. They're going to struggle inside of you, and they're going to fight inside of you. And let me tell you, every person in here right now, if you're gifted, there's a fight inside of you. Sometimes you feel good, and sometimes you feel insecure. Is this honest today? Sometimes you feel like you can conquer the world, and sometimes you feel like the world is conquering you. Sometimes you feel like your real friends are your friends, and then sometimes you have to look at them and say, I don't know. And it's not always because they did something to you. There's just that insecurity will rise up and make you question everything that everybody has ever said and everything that everybody has promised. And then when you look back over your life and think about how bad you've been hurt and how many people have lied to you and how many people didn't keep promises, then you start making people who you just met write checks for people you got rid of. And you become frustrated and you become angry and anxiety begins to sit in and you become frustrated. But let me tell you something. I want you to write this down. Gifts are often accompanied by discomforts so that the gifted doesn't rest in the gift and neglect the giver. I'm going to say it again, so I want you to write it down. This will change your life if you use it. Gifts are often accompanied by discomfort so that the gifted does not rest in the gift and neglect the giver. Sometimes God will give you a gift and also give you a problem so that you won't think that you got the gift without him. Watch this. Ishmael, who is not the promised son, has children. And here Isaac is, who is the promised son, and he has no children. The son who was born illegitimate has all kinds of children. The son that they waited on for 90 years has no children. Let me show you how God will test you. Sometimes God will test you by making sure you fail at the same time your enemy succeeds. Some of you all drove here today. You drove past people washing their cars at home today. You drove past people cutting their grass today. You drove past people, you know people in your neighborhood, they never go to church. They don't do that God thing. They don't go to that church. They're not going to give the church all of their money. They don't have time to listen to a preacher. They don't have time for God. And here you are. You're here every Sunday and every Saturday, and here you are in this place every weekend giving God all the glory and praise, and you're looking at people who never give him any honor and praise, and sometimes it seems like their life is going good, and their children are on the honor roll, and their children are gifted and talented, and your children are stealing the car keys and hopping out of the window. And you brought them to the church saying, Pastor Steve, if you don't pray for these children, I'm going to leave them at church.
I hope you enjoyed what we just talked about. I know I was impacted, and I hope you were influenced. I am Pastor Keion Henderson. Please connect with me on Instagram and Facebook at Pastor Keion, and on our website, lhhouston.church. You can even go to my website, KeionHenderson.com. Guess what? I love you, and there is nothing you can do about it. See you next week on Keion's Corner.